So with my tricep exercises, my first exercise, I like to do several warm-up sets, really to lubricate the elbow.
I agree with that 100%, especially on triceps. I always do my first set or two of tricep pushdowns very light, very high reps, 30 reps, because I don't know about lubricating per se. There's no real juice that goes on in there, but you definitely want to warm up those elbows before you start pushing the heavy weight.
With this specific exercise, I like to start with a reverse grip, and then as the weight gets heavier and heavier, it begins to put a little stress on my wrists, and so I'll flip over to an overhand grip, and I'm able to handle the heavier weight a lot more easily.
Okay, now this is really interesting. He's doing some tricep pushdowns with a palm up, reverse grip, and then apparently he's going to do some right after this, palm down. And as I've said before, there's no way that that's going to change the effect of the tricep. The elbow is just a hinge, and that hinge is going to open and close the exact same way whether your palm is up or palm is down. It doesn't know the difference, it doesn't care. What I will say is this, he's going heavy, you can tell he's trying to use a lot of weight. The tricep is a fairly strong muscle, stronger than his grip and stronger than the back of his forearm, this part of the forearm. So you can actually see, you'll see here in just a second.
And I'll continue to.
You'll see how the wrist is even having a hard time staying straight. It's actually bending up because that weight is pulling him up. It's so hard to be able to pull that down by virtue of these muscles in here when the weight is heavy enough for the tricep. So all of these muscles in here are really straining. The wrist is straining. The grip is straining. He's barely holding onto it with his thumb. In other words, he's sort of short-changing his tricep here. He's not working the tricep as heavy as he could because the limiting factor is the ability to hold onto that thing with his hand and these forearm muscles that are trying to keep his wrist straight.
With triceps, I tend to warm up really slowly. My first exercise, I may do 5, 6, 7 sets, slowly warming up, slowly increasing the weight.
Okay, now, I'm going to point this out now, and I'm going to point this out when he turns his wrist over again. But I want you to see this cable. That cable right there is indicating the direction of the resistance. This lever, the forearm, is being operated by the tricep. So what I want you to focus on here is where in this range of motion that cable and this lever meet perpendicularly. Right? So right now he's a little bit on the high side, right? When he gets to about a little lower, he'll be square with it. He'll be perpendicular to it. That means that at that moment, the tricep is getting the majority, all of the 100% of the resistance. When he comes down, as that lever gets into a position that's more parallel to this cable, the resistance will diminish.
Generally, I stick to a higher rep range. Towards the very end, the last set or two, I may be down to 9 or 10 or so, but generally I'm sticking around 12. You want to concentrate on keeping your upper arm stationary. Don't allow the arm to come up and use the momentum to initiate the top of the movement.
Okay, now that's a good point. A lot of times we see people in the gym and they're doing a tricep push down, but they initiate the movement by starting it with their lats, and then a certain amount of downward inertia has begun, and then they continue it with their tricep. What you really want to try to do is keep the upper arm straight up and down, elbow stationary, so that all of the work is being done by the tricep. Okay. Now what's interesting here is, I don't know if you can see this, but he's got a pad behind him, right? Which means he is not able to stand farther back. He's forced by this pad to stand close to that cable. But watch what that's causing. Right there, his forearm is square with the cable. He is at maximum resistance right there. So as it comes up higher, you'll see the resistance starts to diminish.
Again at the bottom of the movement.
In fact, he doesn't even come up higher.
We're really squeezing.
He stops just shy of hitting maximum resistance. Ideally, in my opinion, I would want to see that elbow bend higher than 90 degrees. He's going right to 90 degrees, actually just shy of 90 degrees, which means it's not quite a full range of motion for the tricep. Now, part of what's happening here is because he's standing so close to it, he's finding that the resistance is very, very heavy at the beginning of the movement. And if he goes any higher than that, standing that close to the cable, he may experience a little bit of elbow discomfort. And watch what happens when he gets to the bottom. Boom. Okay, now his forearm is almost parallel to the cable. That means although he's able to flex his tricep, yes, he's not getting much opposing resistance. If this thing wasn't here and he was able to stand farther back and that cable was more perpendicular to his forearm in that lockout position, he would have more resistance at the point of contraction. He would also have less at the beginning of the movement, which would protect the elbow. And I think that's a good thing.
As I increased weight with the cable press down, I switched from a reverse grip to an overhand grip.
Okay, I do want to comment on that. He did switch to an overhand grip from the reverse grip. So again, I have to emphasize this to you. The most natural grip in terms of flexibility of the wrist is a parallel grip. I would recommend a rope. A rope is the most natural position. This, as you can see, is a strain to the wrist, unless my elbow goes out, right? If I keep my elbow in, I have a hard time making my hand go straight. I mean, of course, he's got a little bit of a V-bar, which is better. If you go with a straight bar, it's gonna make your elbow pop out to the side, right? And by the way, this grip nor the other grip changes where on the tricep gets stimulated. So my view is, why not have your elbows close to your side, in line with your shoulder and your hand, with a parallel, which is the most natural grip, and use a rope and go straight down. That would be my preference. You're not changing where you're hitting the tricep, whether you're doing overhand or underhand anyway. So why not use the most comfortable wrist position possible?
Lots of people have really big arms, but they don't have a really good development and separation with the lateral and medial head, making it really stick out.
Okay, well, he's got nice triceps. And he's right that some people have big arms, but they don't have a lot of separation in their tricep. I'm not even going to get into the whole medial head thing and all that, because if I start describing the names of these heads, it starts to suggest we can somehow alter how we shape that tricep, and we really can't, right? I mean, you can think about being deliberate, you can think about contracting the muscle every time you do a tricep exercise, but you can't change the shape of it. He's blessed, he looks great, his triceps look good, but I feel confident in saying that his triceps wouldn't look any different if he trained differently. As long as he trained hard, his tricep would look that good.